If you're buying a television for yourself or for someone over 65, the criteria that matter are completely different from everything the TV industry talks about. The TV industry sells to 35-year-old gamers. It optimizes for benchmark scores, refresh rates, and gaming latency. None of that is relevant when the actual requirement is being able to find the news without a 20-minute ordeal, being able to hear what the actors are saying without cranking the volume to 40, and being able to change the channel without a college degree in touch navigation. Right now, one specific television is being bought by older consumers at a significant rate, because the Samsung logo on the front creates an assumption of reliability that the actual hardware does not support. Today we are covering 4 televisions, 1 to walk away from immediately, 3 that each solve a specific real-world problem that matters more than any specification the box will ever mention. Stay until the end, because the number 1 pick solves a problem that most people over 65 have been fighting with their television for years without knowing a solution existed. If you are choosing a television for a parent, a grandparent, or yourself, and you want a straight answer, subscribe. This is exactly the kind of breakdown we do every week. Starting with the one to avoid, the Samsung U8000F. Samsung is one of the most trusted names in consumer electronics, and that trust is the exact mechanism this television uses against the buyer it is most likely to attract. An older consumer sees the Samsung logo, remembers years of reliable Samsung products, and assumes the purchase is safe. The logo is real, the assumption is not. The U8000F is Samsung's entry-level offering, and the first problem is the picture itself. The panel is noticeably dim for a living room with any natural light. A window behind the viewer, morning sun coming through blinds, afternoon light from any direction, all of it competes with a screen that does not have the brightness to push back effectively. For an older viewer whose eyesight may already be working harder than it used to, a dim panel is not a minor inconvenience. It is an exhausting daily experience. The second problem is the remote, and this one is worse. Samsung made a deliberate design choice to strip the number pad from their entry-level remote in favor of a minimal, modern-looking wand with a small cluster of buttons. The reasoning is aesthetic. The consequence for anyone who has spent decades pressing a number to change a channel is complete disorientation. There is no button 7 for channel 7. There is no number pad at all. To get to a specific channel, the viewer must navigate a digital on-screen interface that requires multiple button presses to reach, scroll through, and confirm. Helen is 73 years old and has been watching television since she was a child. She bought the U8000F because she trusted the brand. The first evening she tried to change the channel, she spent 15 minutes looking for the number pad before calling her daughter. Her daughter came over, explained the digital menu system, demonstrated it twice, and left. Helen called back the next morning. She returned the television the following day. She told us she had never felt so confused by something she had owned her entire life. The TV failed the one test that matters for this specific buyer. It was supposed to make life simpler. It made it harder. Subscribe if this channel just saved you from giving someone that experience as a gift. Now the 3 televisions that actually get this right. TV number 2 is the Roku Pro Series, and the single most important thing about this television has nothing to do with the screen. It is the remote. Roku's remote is one of the most intuitive television interfaces ever built for a mass-market audience. Large, clearly labeled buttons. A physical headphone jack built directly into the remote body, so one person can watch late-night programming at full volume through earphones without disturbing anyone else in the house. A design that has been consistent enough across years of updates that anyone who learned it once does not have to relearn it when a new model arrives. PCMag named the Roku Pro Series the best Roku TV currently available, and Roku officially supports headphone mode through the remote jack. The operating system loads quickly, does not crash, and presents content in a layout that has not been redesigned into unfamiliarity by a corporate interface update. The apps the viewer uses are where they left them. The volume buttons are large and clearly marked. The home button goes home every time without requiring confirmation through a submenu. The Truva Atta is honest and straightforward. The picture quality is perfectly adequate and nothing beyond that. It is not going to produce the contrast depth or the color accuracy of a premium panel. For watching the news, following a daytime talk show, keeping up with a favorite drama, or putting on a nature documentary in the afternoon, the Roku Pro delivers without complaint. For a grandchild coming over to play video games who expects impressive graphics, the screen will not impress them. That is a real and known trade-off worth stating clearly before the purchase. TV number 3 is the Amazon Fire TV Omni Mini LED, and this television solves the problem that every person who has ever watched an older relative panic over a lost remote understands immediately. The Omni has far-field microphones built directly into the television chassis, not in a separate device that requires its own setup, not in a smart speaker that needs to be paired, in the television itself. When the remote is under the cushion or on the wrong side of the room or genuinely missing, the viewer says the words and the television responds. Change to the news channel, turn the volume up, find that show from last week. The television handles all of it without requiring anyone to find, pick up, or press anything. A son whose father had been buying this television for his parents wrote online that the single best moment since the setup was his father calling him not to report a problem, but to report that he had figured out something new. His father had been watching a film, the remote had slid behind the cushion, and instead of calling for help, he had simply told the TV to pause it. Then he had told it to turn the volume up when he found his seat again. He wrote that his father sounded genuinely proud of himself for the first time in a long time when talking about technology. That is what the right television does for this age group. It removes the feeling of defeat. The Truva Atta is the home screen, and it is a real one. Amazon's Fire OS interface is built around promoting Amazon's products and services. The home screen is populated with recommendations, advertisements for Amazon content, and promotional tiles that shift position over time. For a viewer who has memorized where their apps live and comes back to find the layout rearranged by an update, this creates genuine confusion. The solution is to spend 10 minutes at setup bookmarking the apps the viewer actually uses, so the first thing they see when they turn on the TV is their own shortlist rather than Amazon's promotional content. That configuration takes one setup session and then stays stable. Know it needs to be done before you hand the remote over. And now, the one that solves the problem nobody names but everybody over 65 has. The TCL-QM7, and the problem it solves is dialogue. Modern television and film audio mixing has produced a situation where the background music swells, the sound effects crash, and the actors speak at a volume that is completely buried underneath everything else. The result is that every viewer, regardless of hearing ability, has to choose between turning the volume high enough to hear the conversation and being startled by the next sound effect, or keeping the volume at a reasonable level and missing half of what is being said. Subtitles become the default not because the viewer cannot hear, but because the mixing makes understanding optional rather than guaranteed. The TCL-QM7 addresses this directly. Its processor actively identifies human speech frequencies in the audio track and boosts them relative to the background elements. The dialogue comes forward. The actor's voice sits at the front of the sound rather than fighting for space behind the score and the ambient noise. TCL explicitly lists enhanced dialogue mode and clarity processing in the television's feature set, and the practical result is that a viewer who has been using subtitles for the past 3 years because they could not reliably hear the dialogue can often turn them off. That is not a small thing. It is the difference between watching a film and reading one. The mini LED panel adds another element that matters specifically for this viewer. As eyesight changes with age, the ability to distinguish detail in dark scenes becomes more challenging. A television with genuine contrast between the bright and dark areas of the image makes those dark scenes more legible, not because the viewer's eyes have changed, but because the image has more definition to work with. The TCL-QM7's local dimming produces that contrast at a price that does not require a premium TV budget. The Truva Atta is the viewing angle. The panel performs at its best from the center position directly in front of the screen. Moving significantly to the side, further than a normal seating arrangement would place any viewer, produces a visible reduction in color accuracy and contrast. For a single viewer or a couple watching from a central couch position, this limitation will never appear. For a living room where family visits place viewers at wide angles from the screen, it is worth knowing. Consumer Reports data places the TCL-QM7 among the top performers in its price bracket for 2026. The combination of dialogue clarity, mini LED brightness for aging eyes, and a Roku interface that does not require a technology background to navigate makes it the most complete answer to what a television for this age group actually needs to do. Subscribe and stay close, because next week we are covering something that affects every buyer regardless of age. Television size and room geometry. Most people buy a screen that is either too small for their viewing distance or so large it creates a viewing angle that causes fatigue. The 4 combinations of room size and TV size that actually work, and the common mistakes people make in each category, are all in the next video. If you are planning any TV purchase before watching it, you are making that decision without one of the most practical pieces of information available. We will see you there.